don't want to fight, but Antifa brings violence, breaking in the night. BLM riots burning through the block, but law and respect keep our people on lock. We believe in God, in familiar pride, two genders, one truth, nothing else to divide. Second Amendment, protect what's mine. Peace when we can, strength when it's time. We are Americanos, proud and free, from the barrios of Cali to the whole country. Protect our keys, don't twist our youth.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've been asking for this for a couple of years now. Here we are. You've been wanting this podcast. My name is Benito Bernal. We got the Americano Grassroots Revolution podcast going to be coming straight to each and every one of you in the audience. What you're going to hear here is a personal perspective. Being in politics for almost 40 years, both with Democrats, with Republicans, with independents, with the unions, you name it, been there, done that. Not only will my personal perspective be shared, but the personal perspective of every guest that we have, because we're living in a time where people want to change history. We see the books being changed. We see people trying to change history right before our eyes. So what God put in our heart was to bring the individuals, the actual leaders, the people who are a part of the movement, who are a part of history. And that's who you're going to be hearing from. First introduction I want to do is someone we have via Zoom, and that's Jerry Salas. Now, Jerry Salas, for those of you who don't know, is a good friend of mine. Met him a few years back. We got really close. He's a Vietnam veteran, served during the Vietnam era, and also did a lot of fundraisers and concerts with Cesar Chavez. Jerry Salas is the lead singer, rhythm guitarist for the band El Chicano. Jerry, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing awesome. Good to see you, man. It's so good to be here.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you for being on the show, Jerry. Is there anything I missed in the introduction you want to give a couple minutes real quick? Something I missed about you that you want to
Yeah, you pretty much covered it all. I was actually in Vietnam because sometimes, like in my Rock for Vet program, we have people that were in the Vietnam era, which means they weren't there. They were just in the service during that time, But fortunately, or unfortunately, whatever you want to call it, I was actually in Vietnam, so there's the difference.
Yeah, well, it's good, and thank you for pointing it out, Jerry, because you're right. Not everybody understands that. So, and then we'll get into what happened over there, how you met Cesar Chavez, the things you did. All right, we're going to step into that. So, right now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce a second guest, and let me tell you. This is an individual I knew for many, many years. We parted away for a bit. She went in a different direction. I went in a different direction. But God has always kept the connection between us. Everything we do and we say is always for the glory of God. Yes, we're in politics, but, we don't really care about trying to convert people to Republican or independent. Like I said, we're trying to bring people who are a part of history. So right now I want to introduce a good friend of mine, Gina Felix Goldman, and she is the niece of one of the most famous actresses that's been around for history, Maria Felix. Gina, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Benny. I really appreciate your invitation. Thank you to your audience, and thank you to Luis and the team for inviting me here. I appreciate the invitation. And I'm very excited to be here and excited to share this important moment with you and with Jerry and with your audience.
Awesome. And as you can tell, our goal is not, like I said, to create more division. We're trying to bring light into this dark world because many of our friends are now serving in political office. Democratic Party, Republican Party, Independent Party, in the unions. And these are individuals that we grew up with, individuals that were in the trenches with us when we were fighting for the gente. It was never about party for us. It was always about the people trying to do right before God. So very briefly, Jerry, you want to give us just a quick introduction, like how did you meet Cesar Chavez, and give us a couple of highlights of what you did with Cesar.
Well, the first time I met him, I believe was mid early 70s. We were on tour, and he had called our management and asked if we would be interested in doing a fundraiser to help his farm workers union situation. And of course, we said, yeah, we made time for that. And of course, it was a fundraiser, and obviously we didn't charge him or anything because that's what you do. And believe it was at the Concord Pavilion. up in Concord, California. Was the first time, and it was sold out. It was us, Azteca, and I think Sapo was the other opening act. But when I met him, though, it was we were in the dressing room prior to the show actually going on, and the dressing room gets very loud. We had a lot of people there from different media and just fans and stuff that were. It was really a joyful moment. Everybody was pulling together, trying to get something done. And then all of a sudden the room just got quiet. And I went, "Whoa, what's going on?" And and Cesar had walked in with his bodyguards, and and everybody just kind of like, "Oh, that's Cesar Chavez. This is the guy." And such a cool dude, man. He just like looked around and he saw we were where we were, the band, and he walked over and he went right over to me, and I was sitting down getting my guitar ready to do the show for him, and he just leaned over and shook my hand and just said very nicely, "This is I really appreciate you guys taking your time off to do this. I know you're busy, and we were at that time. We were pretty hot right at that moment. We were on every TV show you could think of, and I think we were touring with Jose Feliciano, I think at that time, and we were getting ready to go back on the road with Earth, Wind, and Fire because we were really, really busy." And he knew that, he knew what our scheduling was. So we basically slipped that into the schedule to accommodate, the show. And he was very, very thankful for that. I always remember that. He kept saying, "Man, it's so cool you guys are doing this. I mean, I know you're really busy, and I've seen you on TV and doing this and that." And I said, "Hey, we're here for you. We're here for the farm workers, and we're just glad that we're able to be here, to slide it in." And he man really, really kept shaking my hand with both hands. And then he went down the road to the other guys and spoke to each of the guys in the band actually. And I thought that was very, very cool of him. And but what I really remembered about him, it was a very serious. He had a serious mode about him, because it was a serious situation. And
Like
yes, it was.
focus?
Yeah, it was focused. There you go. He was very focused, and I kind of, there's certain people in this world that you can see the focusedness in what they do, what they say, and their continence of their body. When you walk, you can always tell somebody's serious or somebody who's just not so serious or whatever. And he definitely had a stride about him that he walked in with confidence and knowing exactly what he wanted to accomplish that day. And I really thought, well, this is a guy who's people need to listen to this guy, So that was that was the first one, and I think we did another show. Oh man, where was that? It was also somewhere Berkeley area, maybe. I'm not sure now. But each time he was very, very thankful, I guess is the best word I could say,
Yes.
And they were great shows, by the way. People that came, they were just like on fire, on fire for the cause and on fire for the music. And, you know, as Latinos, man, we're all about music, and
Yes, sir.
they just were joyful too. It was a joyful noise, by the way.
Yeah. Now, Jerry, you also did some stuff with him when you were in Vietnam, correct?
No, when I was in Vietnam,
Uh-huh.
I was kind of apart from everything, actually.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that was thousands of miles away, man. I was kind of involved in something else at that point.
Hmm.
And you got to remember, I was only 19 years old and I'm driving a 26-ton tank,
Yeah.
so uh, it was a whole different thing over there. When I came back, that's when I, understood exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
Uh, though I do remember the East LA riots and all that that's a whole nother thing.
Hmm.
But I obviously I heard his name,
Hmm.
being in Vietnam, you get a little bit of news here and there. And really it was only newspapers that you got. That
Yeah.
was it at that time. So, that was the extent of that.
Okay, so you have that experience in him, and that we're going to talk a little bit more about that after we get Gina on here as well, and we're going to talk about mainly the why now, right? Pretty much the why now. We're not here to try to defend the man, whether these accusations are true or not, but the whole question for us is why now and what's the purpose. So I wanna talk to Gina real quick, Jerry. Let's have a conversation. So Gina, you have a long history of being a very famous journalist as well. Your Thea being a very famous actress. You've been very involved in the political arena for as long as I have, probably 40 years. And we recently worked together. We were doing with the Kennedy. We did a Kennedy event where we bringing Republicans, independents, and Democrats together to show that, hey, we're not about party, we're about the movement. So tell us a little bit about how you met Cesar Chavez and your experience with him.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for asking and, for giving me the opportunity to actually really explain in detail. I met Cesar many, many, many years ago, and we became friends many, many years ago. And it was when I was very, very young. I was actually in school, and I was flunking class. And I was in big trouble because I come from a very big, large conservative family. And I wasn't going to make it. And I was just like, oh man, I won't hear the end of it. And in my family, it's like not only one person tells you, but you get the whole family. I was flunking big time. And so the teacher said, you're going to have to take extra credit in order to graduate. So I said, okay, fine. So I ended up taking extra credit. So I had a choice between Chicano classes, cooking classes, and journalism. And I thought to myself, well, cooking, I don't know how to cook. Chicano, I don't know anything about Chicano. So I ended up taking journalism classes because technically I was going to school for acting because I know how to act. It's in my blood. So that's what I was focusing on. But in order to graduate, I ended up taking these extra credits. So I sent my my transcripts to Channel 52 when Channel 52 was barely starting, the beginning of Channel 52, okay? And they reviewed my transcripts and they allowed me to become an intern. So there I am in Channel 52. Just because I'm the niece of Maria Felix doesn't mean that they're going to give me a job as an anchor. I had to start from the very beginning. I was preparing coffee. I was the gopher of Channel 52. And I ended up working with the best of the best. I was the youngest one. I ended up working with the best of the best journalists that existed. It's not like paparazzi like we have now. It's real journalism. I ended up working with Maria Laria, Enrique Gratas, Marcelo Urquidi, Pepe Barreto, Jaime Jarrín, Laura Lucio.
Bunch of heavy hitters.
Yeah, Humberto Luna, and I mean, real journalist. And so there I am, super young, just preparing coffee, which by the way I burned. Because I don't know how to cook, and so they sent me to the news after I burnt the coffee a couple of times. They sent me to the news director to help them with One day during a meeting, a journalist who I'm not going to say because I don't like to throw anybody under the bus didn't show up to work, and you can hear a whole bunch of people worried and scrambling, the chaos, man. Yeah. And door slamming, and and they didn't have a journalist to cover a story, and so the son of Enrique Gratas, the news director, said, well, send Gina. And I was like, me? I didn't even know how to drive. I didn't even have a driver's license. I was like, what? And so, they really needed somebody right there on the spot. So Enrique Gratas said to his son, Pablo, he said, well, you're going to drive, you're going to do the camera, and Gina's going to do the story. And I'm like, oh my God, pressure. Anyway, and he told us, and you guys better come back with something. And so there we go driving. So there we go driving in this little clinkety clank trunk.
Looking
Can you
for
imagine?
something.
Yeah. So we drive all the way to Bakersfield in this little clinkety clankety trunk without any air conditioning. And back then, those trucks,
I
all
remember.
the way to Bakersfield. And while Pablo, the son of the news director, was driving, I was over on the passenger side, trying to figure out, how to prepare the story. And the story was about the farm workers, how they were getting paid 25 cents a strawberry. And so we get there, and it was very hot. And guess who was my very first interview?
Oh, wow.
Cesar Chavez.
Wow.
Cesar Chavez was my very first interview. And
What a break-in.
Yeah. And so when I met him, I introduced myself to him, and this, I'm doing the story. And then after I finished my presentation, he said to me, "I know who you are. I know who your family is." And then, we took, he was very nice to me. And so then I was able to get the story, the interview. I looked around. I saw the people that were working there. They didn't have any bathrooms. And I did talk to the people. I interviewed the people. I didn't see anything strange back then. I didn't. If believe me, if I would have saw something strange, I would have said something, because that's how I am.
Yeah, you would have.
I would have said something right then and there. And so then we did the story, and then afterwards, Cesar Chavez sat me down, and we started talking. And after we finished talking, he said, "You see those people over there?" And he pointed out to the people in the farm fields. "You see those people over there? Those are your people. You have to do whatever you can to help their people, because those are your people." And ever since then, I've been helping my people. And
Amen.
Man, he humbled me, because at a very young age, I was like, you're not altogether there. You're really, just barely starting. But when he told me that, I got it. I finally got it. I got it. And so ever since then, I've been helping my people. And that's the friendship that we started. And ever since then, we became very good friends. And what the people are talking right now and what they're describing, that's not the man I knew.
Right.
That is not the man I knew. And so it hurts me to hear, these accusations, because sadly, he's not here on this earth and he cannot defend himself. And so, I wasn't there. None of us were there, but I can speak to the fact of, I know what I saw, I know what I witnessed, and I knew the man, and that's not the man that they are describing.
And that was going to be a little follow-up question, because with all due respect, I'm a married man.
Yeah.
You're a beautiful woman.
Yeah. Thank you.
You were, going back to the younger days. Obviously, if he was the kind of man that they're describing, did you ever feel like he was hitting on you or anything?
No. As a matter of fact, it was with full respect. He gave me the opportunity to actually do the story, take my time, go out there and interview, the farm laborers, basically really like, look around and really do an in-depth story. And so, yeah, if I would have known, or if I would have felt that he was, doing something strange, something weird, something awful, I would have definitely put a stop to it. Definitely. But no, that's not the man that they are describing. At least that's for me.
And that's
in my experience.
Exactly. And that's why we're doing this podcast, this particular topic, because we've all had a personal relationship with Chavez. You described the farm laborers and what they were dealing with. So I grew up picking cucumbers in Stockton, Lone and Modesto at age 6. I lived in Harney Lane Camp. For those of you who don't know Harney Lane Camp, Lodi Camp, they call it. It was just a small little area for the farm workers to live. The shacks, they were little shacks with no running water, no gas, no nothing. It was pretty much cardboard shacks. You shared a shower and a toilet that was in the center of about 5 little units. The sewer would literally run down to a hole that they dug at the end. And we were kids. I mean, we used to play in this stuff because we didn't know any better, but those were the conditions that we were living with. Cesar Chavez, yes, because, going back to 2016, I wanted to share this with the audience. I was then a Democrat. I was a strategist and organizer for the Latino Democratic Party, helped build a machine that, Alex Padilla, Cardenas, and all the rest of them. And in 2016, I was invited to a memorial that we have every year at Chavez High School in Sylmar for Cesar Chavez. And the speaker before me was Dolores Huerta. And when she got up to speak and was talking about Cesar Chavez and, the movement and how he was so pro illegal immigrants, so on and so forth, my eyes just went like, what? Wait a minute, what? So I was the speaker after her. So when I got up to speak, I said, introduce myself. I worked in the field, youngest of 10 family was with Cesar Chavez, but I explained to them that Cesar Chavez did not support illegal immigration, and I explained to them why. Number one is because they were only paying us 25 cents a bucket when they should have been paid 50 cents a bucket. But they also had what was called, they didn't give you cash. So every time you dump a bucket, they give you a ticket or they put a tag on your sleeve and they would punch it, right? So every 2 weeks, the property owner would come out with this cash box. Everybody lines up and then you give your tickets, he gives you cash. Well, who would show up every 2 weeks? Not just the property owner. They would purposely call ICE. So ICE would show up, immigration would come, and they would take, everybody who was illegal would run. So the farm laborers got 2 weeks of free labor. So Chavez was like, no, we not only have to stand up and fight for, the American citizens, because when people say, and, Jerry and Gina, tell me if you agree, disagree with you. I want your perspective on this, because you always hear, wow, these illegal immigrants are doing the jobs that no Americans want to do. Well, in my opinion, that's not true, because it was us first and second generation Americans who depended on that summer work in order to be able to keep the roof over our head and so on and so forth. What's your opinion on that, Gina?
Well, first of all, I want to make something clear. Cesar Chavez was not against an illegal immigrant. Mm-hmm. He was not against any illegal immigrant. He was against illegal immigration, which is a big difference.
Yes.
There's a big difference.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it's important that we clarify that.
Yes.
Because this people mix things and they twist things around and then they use that and say that that's racism. That's not racism. As a matter of fact, I have people who work for me. I have my makeup artist, the person who does my hair. One is from Michoacan. The other one is from. Anyway, they're Mexican, and the first thing that when they walked in the door, they said, "Oh, you know what? We're very upset. Why are they doing this to Cesar Chavez?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I really don't know. Like if I knew, I don't know." But she said, both of them, they said, "We come here, we work very hard, we pay our taxes. We when we came here, we had nothing. We came here for the American dream, and we were able to obtain the American dream. But what we don't agree is someone crossing the border illegally and then taking our jobs." That's what they said to me. And I said, well, I totally understand that. I get it. I totally understand that. And so they said, now they said that they were living here in the United States for a certain amount of years, and then they became United States citizens. So, I mean, people have the opportunity, this, to obtain the American dream. And so it isn't really about racism. It's more like, okay, if you're going to come here, let's try to do this in a civil, normal, legal way. Okay?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, we're all human. Now, I understand that, and I see these images on TV. I see these images on TV where ICE is chasing, the people and holding them down. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes the image, We're all humans. But at the end of the day, if you know that you are here illegally, try to find a way to obtain legal status here in the United States. Now, but of course, there's people that are going to say, oh, ICE is the Gestapo. It goes both ways. And I'm upset because, and I'll say it, I'm upset. You have the Democratic Party and then you have the Republican Party. Both political parties have had the opportunity to give Latinos, citizenship the right way. or to push for legislation
Or fix the broken system.
or fix the broken system, and they haven't. And they haven't.
Agreed.
And so right now, the politicians that we have here in office, especially the Latino politicians, I'm extremely disappointed with them because they had the opportunity, whether it be Democrat, whether it be Republican, doesn't matter. Okay, I don't care if they're green, purple, red, pink, violet, whatever. They haven't done anything, and so at the end of the day, that definitely needs to be addressed, and we have to fix that. Now, going out in the streets and protesting like a crazy and burning down the American flag, that doesn't help either.
Right?
Makes them look like fools that they are.
And then they're going to say, "Oh, all Mexicans are like that." We're not.
Right.
We're not all like that.
Nope.
No.
Yeah. Jerry, you want to give a little input right here, Jerry?
Yeah, I totally agree with what she was saying. My mother came from Mexico City. She came in legally. She took her oaths. She learned about our American way. She loved it here. She always wanted to stay here. And when I see all these, when they saw that open border for the last 4 years, it was and stepping in front of the line, basically illegally, for all those that were in line trying to get here legally. It just breaks my heart, and just like, it's like they're just stepping on my mom's grave, so to speak.
Right.
And it just ticked me off, to see that. And what really ticked me off is the Democratic Party saying it's not happening. I mean, do they really think we're that stupid that we can't see and feel the difference when that was going on? I mean, think about that. That is like crazy. And that was the time, if you recall, COVID time, when we had to take the jab or have a card that said we did, to go anywhere, let alone cross a border. And yet thousands and thousands, millions really, came across that border unvetted, no jab, no nothing. And everybody with a brain knows exactly why that happened. It was all about the head count. It was all about giving them stuff so they would vote democratically, and putting them up really in hotels, $200, $300 a night in New York City, and giving them phones, giving them money, get everything. And then I'm seeing all these veterans homeless on the street, not being looked at, not being talked about. It just irks me to see that. And so you can see the agenda right there.
Yes, sir.
It's just plain as day. And if you can't see it, that you don't want to see it.
Yeah. No, Jerry, you hit the nail on the head. And I think we all agree we're on one accord here, and it's sad because we have so much faith and trust in our leaders, especially, going back to when we built the Latino political machine. Let me make it very clear, and thank you for clarifying that because, I didn't realize I put that out there. Chavez was never against illegal immigrants, but the whole immigration process and everything that was going on and how people were coming over, the broken system, so on and so forth. But it's just when we built the Latino political machine, I grew up in the raza, the Chicano power, the Mecha movement, CSUN with my older brothers and sisters. And it was viva la raza, viva la raza, viva la raza. But it was instilled in our heads. We always blame the white man for our failures, and I'm thinking, why am I always being taught this? But they instilled it in my head. So then finally I said, then why don't we, if we're always blaming the white man for our failures who are in office, then why don't we build our own Latino political machine? So that was the goal. The goal was to build our own Latino political machine. This was 26, 28 years ago. And it was to run for every level of government, not only city council, state assembly, Senate, Congress, and then the presidency in 2028, but also the school districts and in the courts. And there's a reason for that. But let me tell you the 5 issues that we were going to address. Gang violence, because our kids were killing each other. Gang violence, teenage dropout, teenage pregnancy, the abuse in the welfare system, and illegal immigration. Think about that. This was 28 years ago, and this is a Democratic Latino party. Those were our 5 top issues. What happened was, eventually, years go by, we got people elected to different levels of government, and eventually we had every level except for the presidency and I think the Senate at the time. But locally, we were in place, and things were getting worse. So we had a private meeting, and I asked a question. I said, gentlemen, our goal was to build this machine to address these 5 issues. I said, now we have all our gente, brown-skinned people in office and things are worse. So what's the problem? None of them would look at me. The one man that
Yeah,
controls
they
them.
didn't want to.
Yeah, the one man that controls them, he's a lobbyist and a developer. He says, Benito, let me ask you a question. 3 questions, he said. I said, all right. He says, number 1, think about this. He says, if we solve all these issues that you're talking about, then what issues will our candidates run on the next time they run for office? And then number 2, he says, do you realize how much money comes into our city and our states, nonprofit organizations, right? You know, we'll lose that as well. He goes, and because I was a union vice president elected by, by the members of SEIU, he goes, and do you realize how many jobs it creates? So I look at him and I look around the room and none of them would look at me. And I said, so what you're telling me, pay attention to this. I said, what you're telling me is that as long as our kids keep killing each other, as long as our young girls keep dropping out of school, as long as we have open borders and everything else, we're not going to do anything because there's money to be made. And he just crossed his arms and goes, that's the Marxist way. And ever since that day, I told him, from this day forward, I'm going to do everything I can to expose you guys. And
Good.
Sure enough, a few weeks pass by, I get offered a couple $1 million to turn around and shut up. Not for sale. Had the death threats on me and my children. I went to the Lord. The Lord has protected me and my kids ever since. So have you ever experienced any repercussions, either one of you, for standing up for what's right?
No, because I consider myself a very strong person, and I come from a very strong family. They won't even cross the line. They better not.
Yeah.
But I want to address something. I think the word la raza is not a good word to use. The word la raza is more, to me, in my opinion, of a trashy, derogatory description of us people.
See the different perspectives?
We can say our people,
Our gente.
but la raza is more like saying la chusma, And so I try.
And think about that. That's a great point, because you talk about the Chicano movement. Back in the days, it was more the Mecha movement that used the word raza a lot. That stuck in my head.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No. I personally don't use that word. Now, as far as why are people crossing the border, people are crossing the border. Why are people crossing the border? Because of the messed up administrations that are in chaos on that side, on the other side. A large percentage of Mexican Americans that cross the border, because back then of the corrupt governments. Back then, the corrupt governments in Mexico, the administrations, you end up having Mexican presidents that were stealing money, a lot of poverty, a lot of people that were not, they were struggling to survive. But little by little, things are changing, not fast enough, but they're changing. Of course, there's going to be people that are going to be arguing, oh, yeah, the cartels and this and that. And then, there's going to be people that are going to disagree. But at the same time, there's positive changes. I will say it. I am in support of Claudia Sheinbaum. I know a lot of people are not, but I know she is doing the best that she can. I get briefed basically every day with everything that she's doing. She's doing good things for the pueblo. Now, that's a good word that we can use, el pueblo.
Okay.
El pueblo, because she uses it. She said, there's a slogan that she says, con el pueblo todo y sin el pueblo nada. With the people, everything, and without the people, nothing. The translation. And so I prefer to use the word el pueblo instead of the word la raza. Okay? And so she's doing, in my opinion, she's doing a good job. And of course, I'm going to get, people, she's working for the cartels. And listen, if she was working for the cartels, they say, if she's working for the cartels, that's why, they haven't done anything to her. Listen, for many years, Mexico had the government del PRI, they had the government del PAN, they had the other, political parties, and they still had poverty and corruption. But now things are changing. Like I said, I've got my makeup artist and the person who does my hair. They're from Mexico, and they're happy with Claudia Scheinbaum. Happy. And the person who does my makeup is from Michoacan, Mexico.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah.
that's where we're from.
Yeah, from Michoacan, Mexico, and that's exactly what we were talking about. The conversation about the changes, the positive changes that are taking place in Mexico. Now, it's a good thing now that they were able to get El Mencho, and we've got the Chapo behind bars. Now they were to get the Mencho, and Mexico. See, the thing is that people worldwide think that Mexicans are stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Not all. Listen, Mexicans. You have a lot of educated Mexicans.
That's right.
You have a lot of educated Mexicans. For one, Dr. Claudia Scheinbaum Pardo is a very educated Mexican. By the way, she's Jewish too, but she's an educated woman. And also, the person that Mexico has, who is in charge of the defense in Mexico, is Harfuch. His name is Harfuch. He graduated in the United States. He's got he is overly qualified for that job. Thank God that he is there. He's the real deal. And it's not like, the administration has unqualified people in Mexico. No, there's qualified people. So I'm very happy with the security that with Harfuch. As a matter of fact, Harfuch is the son of a Mexican actress, Maria Sorte, from Mexico. His mother is a Mexican actress.
See, we're getting some deep insight in here.
Yeah. So, his team and himself, he's gone over there where the drug cartels are with his big old, black cars, armored black cars, and the drug cartels have shot at him, and the cars look like Swiss cheese. And he came out of there injured but alive. And then after that, he came back and he got the bad guys.
Well,
Good.
God works in mysterious ways, right? God does miraculous things. And that's why I'm glad that we have you on as a guest, because we're trying to get our other friend on right now, Baldomero. Baldomero is a national representative for the Braceros. For those of you who don't know, you want to talk about a little bit of the Braceros real quick, Gina? I know you can break it down.
Yeah, well, the Braceros basically is it's a very important movement that should not be forgotten.
That's how my grandparents came over to the United States through the Bracero program.
Oh, well, no, talk to me about your grandparents.
that was back, and my parents came over. It was in, my dad was born in 1919. So I think it was in 1919, 1918, after they killed Benito Canales over in Michoacan. There was kind of the rancho we were from. My parents, they realized it was this program. My grandparents and my dad told me that the way they would inspect them was they would bring them up to the border, right? And they would check their hands. So if they had rough hands of a working person, then they would go and they would spray them and do all that chemical stuff and then bring them on in and give them temporary work here in the United States.
Let me stop you there.
Yeah.
For your audience, listen to what he just said, that they would spray them.
Yes.
They were spraying the Mexicans
with a bunch of chemicals because they didn't want, they were said to have fleas or whatever, anything they may have. So a lot of them, till this day, some of them are no longer with us because those chemicals did have an impact on their life. Until this day, from what I understand, that's why we wanted to hear from Baldomero, is that certain portions of the money were taken away. The United States took 10%, Mexico took 10%. Well, once they went back to their land, United States gave them back their 10%, but it's my understanding that Mexico has yet to pay the Braceros back. And this is going back to the 50s, So right now with the current presidenta, I know that Baldomero met with her and they were finally starting to see some movement, but everything kind of came to a halt. And I thought, wow, this would be perfect for you and Baldomero to have this conversations, being that you have a personal relationship with her as well. Give them an opportunity to fix what's wrong, because there's not a lot of them left. They're passing away, and I remember working in the fields I was 6 years old, and I remember the plane would come down on us, and it would spray us. I was 6 years old. I thought it was cool. Like, oh, here comes this plane, But I would see everybody start covering themselves, and I was
my
wondering,
goodness.
like, what is going on? So, yeah, we got sprayed. There was a lot that was going on.
Jeepers.
But they did, to your point, they made sure that they sprayed them. They put this powder on them. And that's kind of what my dad described. But what do you know?
Who was president back then?
I don't remember back in them days.
I'm going to ask. We should ask
Yeah.
Baldomero. He
Yeah.
should remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I would want to know. Who was the American president that year?
Yeah. We'd have to figure it out, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Well, it's the braceros need. I respect I have a lot of respect for a bracero. I have a lot of respect for farm workers, and I have a respect for you because I don't know what it is to work in the farms. I don't think I would last working in the farms. I would, start complaining like a crazy, but not, it's hard work and it needs to be respected, in my opinion. Hopefully, is Baldomero ready?
He's not on, but, I'll get a little bit into, like, the conditions. Well, Jerry, did you have any input right now that you wanted to talk about?
Well, talking about the farm workers, my family worked in. We lived when I still recall at 2 years old. We lived in an orchard,
Oh.
and my mother. I found out my dad met my mother. She worked in the packing houses, and my dad was the truck driver, and he would, pick up the produce.
And wink an eye at her every now and then, right?
Every now and then, he would just he caught her eye, and then vice versa, and that's how they met in the fields
Wow.
of the packing house. And I remember running through the orchards as a little 2-year-old.
How about if we make a film about that?
I know, man. I think my mom. She actually said, "You don't remember that," and I described the house.
Wow.
I described a certain toy that they gave me at that time, and then she went, "Wow, you do remember that?" And I said, "Yeah, because there were no other houses. It was just our house, and then there was another couple houses down the way, in the orchard." And my dad, early on, they used to use what they called smudge pots. In the winter, he'd have to run through the orchards lighting the smudge pots so the produce wouldn't freeze on cold nights.
Ah.
Yeah. And he would tell you all about the stories about that. I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, we'd get a call, this siren would go off or something would happen, and from the main, orchard owner, which meant it was too cold for, and he had to get out there and start running through the fields,
Wow.
lighting the smudge pots, to make sure the produce wouldn't freeze."
Wow.
And I just thought, wow, man, my dad and mom have really done a lot, So, and I wanted to kind of touch on the immigration situation, and it's totally different now. It's not just Mexicans coming across. Okay, we got people coming from all over the world that are not our friends. Let's just put it that way, and we're just starting to feel the results of that.
Yes, sir.
By not vetting all those millions and millions of people. I mean, it's not when we're going to have another big, 9/11. It's just when at this point, as far as I'm concerned, because they're busting up, what do you call them? Circles of terrorists all the time. We just don't hear about it. So not only did the Democrats do that for the votes and everything and that, they own that. They have to own whatever terrorist situation comes down in this country between now and whenever. They have to own that because they created that.
And that's a great point, Jerry. And I'll touch bases just real quick here. Is when I was running for Congress in 2024, it was still 2023, I think, and we got invited to Washington D.C. and we got to meet with Tom Homan,
Oh.
So Tom Homan, and we met a lot of the national leaders up there. This was before Trump was in office, and he was showing us a video of all the illegal crossings, right? And he wasn't saying anything. He just showed it. I think it was called the River of Broken Dreams or something like that. I'll have to send it. I'll put it on my podcast so you guys can watch it. But after, it was a question and answer, and it was a lot of candidates. It was congressmen, senators, all of us there. And then he says, "What did you guys notice?" And everybody just kind of looked at each other, and I raised my hand. I said, "Well, what I saw a group of young men between the ages of maybe 19 and 24, physically fit, who seemed to be military trained in groups coming across. I saw Chinese, I saw Russians, so that's what I saw. What I saw when we're talking about people coming from Latin America or Mexico, I saw people, families who were coming to work. So I noticed a difference." And he says, "I'm glad you got that." He goes,
Oh.
"That's our concern. Our concern is not
There it is.
the people coming over who are wanting to make a living here. Yes, we have concerns with that, but that's not our priority. Our concern are these trained militants, is what they call them, who have already crossed the borders during the Biden administration. We have to do something about that, whether we win the election or not." He made it very clear because he's worked under Obama. He's worked under Democrats and Republicans, So it's kind of funny that now that he's enforcing, pretty much doing the same thing he did under a Democrat administration, now he's doing bad. Okay, wait a minute, but he did the same thing under Obama, and you guys, we didn't hear one word.
Not a
So
peep.
yeah, so you look at the double standards, and I think that's what a lot of us are concerned with, and that's why we talk about the why now. Are these accusations coming out now? And I'll share this because, in my opinion, we had a strategy that we put together about 10 years ago, and it was we knew that Chavez was always somebody that they held high. But, we knew that when they put all their eggs in one basket, when I talk about the one basket, I'm talking about the woke agenda, transgendering, they thought they had the masses. And God put it in our heart to wake up the churches, wake up the parents, which we did with all the protests, the rallies, the radio shows, the podcasts that we did. We don't do it for name recognition. We do it for the glory of God to wake up people and save souls. So we were able to do that. But that's kind of been our goal, is to try to wake people up so that people can see that the elected officials, just because of the color of their skin, doesn't mean they're going to vote and support what you want. So what I realized that, okay, they're going to lose that movement. Now they have the open borders, because the reason why they went to open borders is because those of us who helped get them into office, Senator Padilla, Cárdenas, Luz Rivas, the rest of them, we realized that they no longer cared about our values. All they cared about was power and money. So many of us stopped voting for them. And we're 6 generations now here in Los Angeles. So our support was no longer going towards them. So they understood that under the Biden administration, this is just my opinion based on my political experience, that they were trying to bring in the masses, because I know for years they've been stealing elections. They have people, my parents and my neighbors whose parents are died. Going back 25 years ago, they would look through the obituary, see who passed away. They would do a revoter registration, change the address, and that's how they would, get extra votes. But with the open borders, they had to go to the masses, because people, the gente, the pueblo, we became educated. We said, wait a minute, these people are using us. So that's why they're supportive of so much of the open borders. And that's why once they put Chavez out there as their hero who's fighting for illegal immigrants, we had to put the information out there that you need to know where he stood on illegal immigration. You need to understand that. Know where his position was. So we made that very clear. But what we're doing here, Gina, Jerry, and Baldomero, the rest of us, what we're trying to do is we're not trying to just bash Democrats, because like Gina said, she said it well, Jerry said it, both parties have had a chance to fix it. Both parties have had a chance to fix it. So right now, my understanding from talking to Baldomero, that even in Mexico, Gina, that there's a big movement for an independent party, as there is here in the United States. I myself and others, there's plenty of people who are saying, you know what, the California Republican Party has left us. just like the Democratic Party left us. The leadership right now in California has failed us. All they care about is the alphabets, the LGBTQ and everything else. That's their big umbrella. That's what they want to focus on. And then they use the pueblo, the people, our gente to pretty much try to build themselves, but they're doing the same thing the Democrats are doing, using us as tokens. So when Kennedy came out and was running as an independent and you invited us to do an event together, I said, absolutely. Because I first met Kennedy in 2015 when he was going out and trying to educate himself also about the vaccines. David Hernandez and I went out to an event at some Muslim temple, and we met with him there. And it was a powerful meeting, and that's when we got more involved. But I liked his process of thinking. So when I saw him come in as independent, and what you said, we have a lot in common, Gina. We have friends on all parties. We have friends in the hood. We have friends in Beverly Hills. We know them all, but we have something in common. We serve the man up above. We don't care about getting paid for what we do. We care about doing the right thing. So Gina, you want to say anything about any input on that?
Yeah, right now we're at the point where, yeah, you're right. The Democratic Party is not anymore the Democratic Party, the John F. Kennedy Democratic Party. No,
Not
that's
even close. Not even close. I'm a walk away myself.
yeah, that party does no longer exist. Okay,
Nope.
when I was helping Bob, because I'm friends with the Kennedys since 1991, but when I was helping Bobby, he tried to run as a Democrat, and the Democratic Party blocked him. I mean, we helped him get the signatures legally. We turned in the signatures, and they changed the rules, and they
Yeah.
blocked him. They blocked him,
I
and
remember
that
that.
to me, when I saw that and I experienced that, I said, "Oh man, this is not the Democratic Party. This is not the Democratic Party that I know." No. So that's why he ended up running as an independent. But at this point now, and thank God right now he is in the administration that we have him there, because a lot of the way that he thinks, I think
He's
the
doing
same way.
good things.
Thank you. Thank you.
So do I.
Thank you, Jerry. Now, at this point, I to your audience, I'm not telling you what to do or how to think. At this point, we have to find a way how to work with the current Mexican administration and the current administration that we have right now. We've got to work together in order to be able to solve the problems that we have right now. Especially with immigration, we've got to find a way on how to solve that problem, and solve it in a very humane way.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I don't want to see ICE dragging people in the streets. No, but how did we get there? If the current politicians would have done, whether they're Democrat or Republican, if they would have done their job, we wouldn't be in this mess.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
That has to do a lot with sanctuary city policies right now, though. I mean, if they would only hand over the convicted felons that are already in their jails, they would not have to community and have to arrest other illegals that are just hanging around with them, but that they're still illegals and they have to do their job. But the sanctuary cities are the ones that are perpetuating this whole thing. Can you imagine a murderer, a child rapist, a drug trafficker? They're in the jail already. All they have to do is hand them over to ICE, and that's that. Boom, boom. Clean, done. They get deported. They get whatever it is that they got to do. But no, they're releasing them on their own people in those cities, and let them go and do whatever they've been doing, even more.
Yeah. Gina, your opinion on that? Because
And what
I
happens?
got a response.
They have to go into now they have to go into the neighborhoods, and guess what? Now everybody's making calls, and oh my God, they're taking this poor guy, this poor child rapist, or whatever it is they're trying to say. I mean, and everybody starts getting involved. Now you're seeing a riot where it could have been two guys to go to the jail to pick up the felon, because that's all they're going for. They wanted to get just the felons that they know have already had deportation papers on them and or have been convicted of murder, rape, whatever, and they just take them out and that's it. But now we got to waste more to bring 6 or 10 people, because they know what's going to happen once they go into that house and don't forget, these guys are going to places where they possibly have guns, knives, whatever. It's way more dangerous for them to do that as well. And then you throw on top of it all these activists that are, getting in their way and harming them, actually. And that is what I see really ticks me off about the sanctuary city policy. And they don't care. They're going to let them out onto the community anyway.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. So you tell me that they care about anything. They just care about numbers only.
Yeah, Gina.
Well, I believe in my heart that the solution is the new Mexican administration and the current American administration. They've got to work together to solve the immigration situation, whether it be the Mexican government, the Ecuadorian government, the Nicaragua government, the Puerto Rican, the Dominican, immigration, period. But here's the way we can solve it. Both these, any country, they've got to work together, because at the end of the day, people forget that when the United States was in World War II, and a lot of American people were drafted and had to go and fight, guess who was left behind? The women. And the United States didn't have enough people to work. And so what did they do? They recruited the Mexican people to come and help the United States. Okay. Mm-hmm. They also the Mexican squadron, the flying squadron. Okay, they helped the United States fight in the war. Mm-hmm. It's not like if Mexico really is a third world country. No, Mexico has a good marine program. They have a good their own Navy program, and Mexico helped the United States defend the United States. So at this point, it's about respect, and people have to understand that they must respect Mexico, because Mexico has helped the United States in not only once but many times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's important that we all come together.
Yeah.
To try to solve this issue, because, like we said, we can do the blame game. Everybody does it.
Yeah.
But we made it very clear: Democrats failed, Republicans failed. They've had control of the presidency, the Senate, the House. They've had an opportunity. Now we have a president, a president here in the United States, a presidenta in Mexico, who are also concerned with the problem with this particular issue. So, Gina, moving forward, that's why I wanted to have Baldomero on the show. I want you to meet Jerry, some of the others, because what I think God is doing is bringing key players together who have some type of influence or relationship with the current leaderships, so we can have this conversation. Why? Because we were the ones in the trenches. We're not asking for money. We're not asking for power. We're not asking for positions. All we're asking is
for solutions.
Solutions, because especially when you talk about open borders, people they would try to call me a racist. You're a racist and blah, 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 because I became a Republican, right? Oh. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, by having open borders, if we were secure that, how many innocent women and children's lives that are being lost every day could we save? They couldn't give me an answer. Do you realize how many hundreds of thousands? Right now, I think at that point there was over 300,000 children that were missing. I go, so this is a lot of the cartels have moved away from the drug world, because why? A drug, you use it once and it's done. But a human body, if you sell it, you can sell it over and over and over and over. So they got into a lot of the human trafficking, and that's something that Tom Holman also hit on when we were up in Washington D.C. He
I
showed
bet.
us even in the areas where they meet in the deserts, where there was ropes, where they would tie women, sexually abuse them. He was showing their clothes, like girls who lost, young girls who lost their virginity, and he goes, this is all here. He goes, this is what's happening. This is what nobody wants to talk about. And he blamed both administrations, but he did believe in the current president. He said, we have somebody who is willing to take on the fight because there's a lot of money involved. People don't understand that. There's a lot of money involved in having open borders because of the human trafficking aspect. What do you guys think about that? Let me get your insight on that.
I don't know Holman. I've never met him, but I firmly believe in my heart that the only way that we can solve this is first, we've got to get not only two countries, but a group of countries together to work together with the United States in order to solve the immigration problem. That's how I see we could only fix this. Okay. Also, educate the younger people, hopefully through your podcast, to really do a deep dive, investigative homework on how each political party, how have they helped improve your life. And then
Yep.
then they'll open their eyes and say, "Holy smokes!" And
Mhm.
as a matter of fact, that's why I also did the actually two documentaries. The last documentary I did, and I wasn't going to do it, but a lot of people called me and they said, you have to do something about it, and I didn't want to, but at the end, I ended up doing it. It's a documentary. It's called California's Grassroots. It's how California was formed.
And
Because
we're gonna share clips from that because you shared that with us.
because not too
Yes.
many people know how California was really formed. And then the other clip, it's another documentary, and I hopefully you'll be able to show that, so that the younger generation can watch it and educate themselves and figure out and see what the real story is.
What's the name of the two documentaries? Because we're going to put it on the website. We'll put it on the links here on the podcast. But go ahead and tell the audience
Well,
how they can find it now.
yeah, they can just Google California's grassroots. And the reason why we called it California's is because back then, anybody that was living in California was really called Californios. That was the original name, and I started from the very beginning, from who are the real inhabitants of California.
I saw
Okay.
it. You literally break it down.
Yeah, and I was able to work with the best Mexican Americans that exist,
Yes.
because people think that the Mexicans are stupid. I mean, we have in this documentary, I recruited the best, the top, the most professional Mexican Americans that exist. We have the actress Eliana Alexander, Mexican American, amazing singer, amazing actress. She worked with the Hollywood actor James Garner. Can you imagine? I wish I would have worked with James Garner. And she actually wrote the music for the documentary. It's called Mi Mexico Lindo. It's a beautiful song that it's very emotional. And I worked with Manny Martinez. He is a Mexican American who won an Emmy, part of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. So, I mean, the top of the line. And then
Those are big names.
because not too many people know that we do have Mexican Americans that have won Emmys.
And Manny, actually, we were going to try to get him on today's show, but
Yeah.
he had an appointment. And I know you have some other guests that you want to bring onto the show.
Yeah.
And we're probably going to do that on the next clip.
Yeah.
But definitely, Gina, I think a lot of the experiences that you have,
Mhm.
the life experiences, and obviously, we don't all agree on everything 100%, and that's what's good about it.
Mhm.
And this is what we want. We want to be able to bring people who may not agree 100%, who are looking for a solution. We're not looking to point fingers. We're not looking to throw people under the bus. We've all made mistakes in our life, and we have to just learn to put a foot forward. How do we come together like the old days? In the old days, I could sit when I was a Democrat, I could sit with Republicans and whatever, and I didn't care for Republicans back then, but I still had a conversation with them, and we went and had lunch after. We agreed to disagree, but today, if you disagree, you're a racist, you're a hypocrite, you're a fascist, you're a Nazi, you're a this.
Or the cancel culture.
Yeah, come on, people, really. But
Mm-hmm.
for the audience, when people have no real data, no real facts, no real history to share with you, first thing that comes out of their mouth is negative. They'll start calling you names. So when you see that, just know you're talking to someone who's just reading some clips. Somebody who's been hired to
Exactly.
be at protests or do whatever. Right, Jerry? You've seen that before.
Oh yes, that's all I see. When they do the questioning on the streets,
Yeah.
like they're running around with their signs and fascism this and no kings that, and the reporter will go up to him and say, "Oh, okay. Well, tell me this one was screaming the loudest," and she puts the mic and says, "Okay, well, tell me what fascism is," and she just stared at her. Uh, uh. And then the ones that were yelling other things, they just, oh, okay, here's your chance to explain what you're talking about. Give me an example. Duh, duh, and it's just so obvious they don't even know why they're there,
Yeah,
and a
exactly.
lot of them are just being paid anyway. It's all been factual that Singham, Soros, and there's a lot of different ways that this money
Well,
filter down to the streets. Believe me.
yes. Well, we're going to actually, there's a lot of clips we're going to put onto this podcast and we put it out. And I don't know if they still have me on their list as a Democrat, but I actually got the application sent to me.
What?
Yeah, to show up to the protests, the No Kings protest and all that. Yeah, there's applications out there.
I want to share something with you guys.
See?
First of all, the other documentary, it's called Grassroots, The Heart of America. Okay. But that's one thing. The second thing is that the people that are protesting and carrying the Mexican flag like on their shoulder or as a bandana, you can't do that in Mexico. If you go out in the streets in Mexico and you carry the Mexican flag the way that the people were carrying the
Disrespectful.
Mexican flag when they were rioting in the streets, because they were rioting, they were not protesting, they were rioting. The police, they will grab them and put them in jail.
That's right.
When I saw that, I said, "What the heck are these people doing? They're carrying the Mexican flag like if I don't know what."
Mm-hmm.
You in Mexico, you have young kids in the military that they carry the Mexican flag with a lot of pride, okay, and you cannot carry the Mexican flag like if it's a scarf.
Right.
And I was just like, what? I couldn't. And so that's why I ended up doing these documentaries, because the younger generation, they need to really educate themselves on the topic.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to put those out there. Luis, did we have Baldomero on there? He was trying to connect. He was on there trying to get in right now. I was trying to get your attention there. But I think what we're going to do right here is we're to Jerry. Is there anything else you want to input right now before we kind of cut this segment? And I'm going to get back to Baldomero.
Yeah. Basically, it's not which team you're on, because that goes nowhere for me. It's people need to vote on policy, not I was raised a Democrat or I was raised a Republican. I mean, I was raised a Democrat. My whole family was. My dad would have been rolling in his grave listening to what's going on right now in that party, quite seriously, because He was about policy. He wasn't about what team, But at that point, he was a Democrat, so I give that to him, and I was too. But when the policy started changing so radically, that's when I became a walkaway. And I just like to tell anybody out there, just look at policy. Don't look at who's doing it, whatever policy, and is it right? And pray about it.
Amen.
Amen to that.
You
Yeah.
hit the nail on the head right there, Jerry. All right, guys. Well, this segment right now, we're going to bring it to an end. We got Baldomero on the line now. We're going to kind of do something in Spanish because information is so important. We got to get it out there. But Jerry, want to thank you again, my brother, for sharing your time. I know you're very busy. You got your Rock for Vets. Jerry, just get a quick little plug for your Rock for Vets.
Yes, my Rock for Vet program has been around 15 years. We probably helped about way over 300 vets. The PTSD, physicalities, whatever. It's just all about forgetting about your problems and just concentrate on music and having joy back in your heart. And my way to thank my brothers and sisters in the military that I know some of us have been gone through a lot of stuff. And I just want to bring some joy into their lives and in the lives of their families. So this is like Welcome Home Vietnam Veteran Day yesterday and today.
Yes, sir.
And
Welcome home, my brother.
Welcome home, man. And I'm so proud to have helped Jose Ramos, who did this, who made this happen. I'm so proud to be affiliated with it and glad that I was able to help him. So God bless all our veterans around the world and their families as well.
Jerry, a pleasure talking to you. And I just wanted to mention something really quick. How cool was it that you got to play with Jose Feliciano? How cool.
How was that experience, Jerry?
He was great, man. It was the best time. We had so much fun. I recently saw him play, and we were talking about old times, because I met him back in the 70s, obviously.
Wow.
And, I grew up listening to Light My Fire, man,
Yeah.
and all the California Dreaming,
Yeah.
and oh man, just real quickly, I was in high school. I was an usher at the Greek Theater. And he was playing them with full orchestra. I'll never forget that.
Wow.
And then I ended up touring with him.
Super cool, man. Super
Tell
cool.
you, first you're working the stands, now you're playing with them.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
Jerry. Well, thank you, my brother. God bless you, and God bless you for all you do for the veterans. I know my brother's a Vietnam veteran, and he loves you. And I've seen these lives be transformed in front of my eyes. So your talents that God has blessed you with, you're sharing it with the veterans. Jerry, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. God bless you, my brother.
Hey, God bless everybody. Have a great day.
All right, Jerry.
Thank you.
Take care, Jerry.
We don't want chaos, we don't want to fight, but Antifa brings violence, breaking in the night. BLM riots, burning to the block, but low and respect keep up.